Women of impact, that in and of itself is so very, very powerful. To choose to be intentional about being women of impact, and then to take it a step further, to be intentional about how you will impact. Think about choice. Choice is one of the most powerful things that exist on the planet, the power of choice. We hear it all the time, but I want to take some time to really talk about it in a real world way, that we really get present to it in the ways that we sometimes forget. Yeah? Is that okay with you guys? Yes, ladies, women, I shouldn't say guys. Is that okay? I can't really hear you. Yes? Okay, that's good. How many of you woke up this morning and said, I have to wake up? Yes? And how many of you have all of these things that you're constantly saying to yourself, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this? Raise your hand if you hear yourself saying that. So what are some of the things that you say you have to do? But before you tell me that, let me give you a distinct definition for have to. A have to is anything that you say you have to do, and you actually do it, and you have a negative experience when you do it. So for me, I would say, I have to clean my baseboards in my house. What is my experience when I do that? Tired. I could not say I have to eat chocolate Haagen-Dazs. I do that, and what is my feeling when I do that? It's pleasurable. So is everybody clear? So we're going to define our have-tos just really quickly. What are some of the things that you say you have to do? So I have to pay expense reports, do expense reports. What are some of the things that you say you have to do? Okay, have to pay taxes. What else? Have to pay bills. Have to go to the gym, have to make lunches, have to do laundry. Remind, how many can relate to that one? Remind the teenager about what she has to do. So we have all of these things that we say we have to do, right? And when we look at them from that perspective, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to remind my teenager, I have to make the lunches, I have to get to work on time. What is the actual experience when we say to ourselves, I have to do this, that, or the other? How does that make you feel? Obligated, stressed, tired, controlled, resentful, worried, annoyed, I heard out there. Yeah, anytime we bring the attitude, I have to something, you are guaranteed what I call a grungy. Now let me tell you what a grungy is. I just got back from Florida. Just, you know how when the humidity is high, right? And you sweat all day, and then a little dust and dirt mixed with the sweat, you know how when you go on vacation and it dries on your skin, it's a little grungy. It doesn't feel good, right? So whenever we look at something from a have-to perspective, we are left with a very grungy experience. The only possible experience available from the attitude of a have-to is one that's disempowering and takes energy and vitality from us. That is, every single time we look at whatever it is from a have-to, we can be guaranteed that we're going to have that kind of experience. Is everybody tracking with me? Raise your hand if you can get what I'm saying. Yes. So really what I want to offer you today is this. That absolutely is not true. That is absolutely not true. We don't have to do anything. Let's explore for a moment. Will y'all explore with me? I'm very interactive, so you're going to be talking back and sharing with me. Is that good? Yes? Okay, so how many of you said you have to work? Raise your hand. And if you didn't say it, you believe you have to work. Or your bills tell you you have to work? Raise your hand. Okay, great. That is not true that you have to work. Let's explore. Now, I am not recommending any of these things, by the way, so let me just put this out there. But what are some things that other people do to get money other than work? Let's talk about it. Okay, now I'm not recommending this, but we're exploring. So some people steal. What else? Say that again. Hit the lottery. What else? Gamble. Go to Vegas. Marry rich. Live off the inheritance. Mooch off our families, right? So it is not true that we have to work. It's just that those of us that are attending this conference, we'd rather work than the outcome of not working. Yes? How many of you said, I have to, or believe I have to pay my taxes? Raise your hand. Okay. No, you don't. You do not have to pay your taxes. What are some other options besides paying your taxes? Go to jail, absolutely. What else are some things that people do besides paying taxes? They work off the books. They leave the country. So it is not true that you have to pay your taxes. It's just that those of us that are at this conference, we would rather pay our taxes than the consequences of not paying our taxes. We would rather work than the consequences of not working. We'd rather take care of our children than the consequences of not taking care of our children. So what's implied in the statement, I'd rather? We'd rather. Choice. That is what is implied, ladies and some gentlemen, yes? Choice. Here's what I want to offer you today that I have found to be a complete game changer in my life. Is every way that you are is a choice. Every single thing that you do is a choice. And even choosing not to choose is indeed a choice. Right? What opens up from the attitude of I choose to versus I have to? What opens up? What's the experience when you say I choose to? Say that again. Empowered, energy, optimism, happy, fearlessness, self-satisfaction, responsibility. All of those things become available from the attitude of I choose to versus the attitude of I have to. Every time you look at something from the perspective of I have to, you choose to view it from I have to, you can be guaranteed that any of those grungy experiences and then some is what will become available or what becomes our experience. We start to compare our choices, our reality choices, with the fantasy choice that wasn't even on the table, right? So when you took your position, your job, that was the best choice and option on the table at the time. And then we start to compare it to a fantasy option that was not there, that has all the perks. Instead of the 3 weeks off, it has 9 weeks off. Instead of telecommuting for an hour, you telecommute every day, and everybody loves everything that you say. You're the most brilliant person on the entire planet, right? So how does your real choice pair up to that choice, right? The only experience that's available when we start to doubt our choices, and what has us doubt our choices is when we begin to compare our choices, our real world options that were available to us in real time, to a fantasy choice that was not available at that time. So when we look at things from the space of choice, everything that I just said opens up. But there's also some other things that are true about choice. It's not motivational. That's not what I'm talking about. It's not pretend like the things that are not working are working. It's not pretending like you feel one way when you feel another way. but it's really embracing what it is to say, I choose to. And inside of that, we shift our experience completely. And when we do that, all new platforms become available, new possibilities become available, new opportunities become available that are not available minus the choice. Now, there's some realities in life. There's some things that we have no choice about. Yes? Yes, aren't there some things that we have no choice about? Hurricane Katrina, no choice about that. But there's one thing that regardless of the economy goes up, it comes down, it does a lot of things, yes? The job market goes up, comes down. Count-onables, COUNT-ON-ABLS, count-onables. As long as life keeps lifing and people keep peopling and the world keeps whirling, there's some count-onables. Sunshine and rain, joy and pain, good times and bad times, highs and lows, good choices, not so good choices, right? Those things are part of what it is called to be in life living. And while those things are count-onables, here's what's always available to us, whether life is up or it's in a low, whether we're on a high or we're in a challenge. We can't always choose exactly what's going to happen, but what we always have the choice about is to choose how we're going to relate to what is happening. Always. You know, you take two mothers, both lose their children to drunk drivers. One mother starts mad, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and the other one lives in the eternal question, why me? Very, very tough, but it's a choice, you know, of how we're going to relate to it, right? So I want us to begin to look at, you know, and where am I choosing? And where am I choosing not to choose? Yeah. Sometimes we're waiting for somebody else to choose for us. I want you to just take a moment and see where in your life are you perhaps currently waiting for someone to choose for you? Where are you choosing not to choose? Yeah. And we're always making the choices. The key is to get aware and to become acutely present to the fact that we're always choosing. Yeah. So just take a moment. Are there some choices that need to be made that you haven't made? Some choices that you want to make, but maybe you've been hesitating to make? You know how we're in meetings sometimes and an idea comes to you and it's a brilliant idea. It feels right, but then you don't speak up and you hold back, and the person on the other side of the room, they say it 12 minutes later after you've thought about it, and you go, that's exactly what I was going to say. And then everybody's so excited about the great idea that you actually had before they actually said it. Yes? And then we find ourselves a bit frustrated because we didn't speak up. In that moment, we chose not to speak up. But what we oftentimes don't see that we chose not to speak up. What we're left with oftentimes is feeling resentful because the other person spoke up and feeling like what could have happened. And so we want to really be mindful of we're always choosing. Your vision, your goal, where you're headed, what you see for yourself really determines and dictates to us what choices we should be making. I can't say that I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller. That's a nice statement, but that statement then tells me exactly all the other choices that I need to make. That vision tells me the choices that I need to make moving from there. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So what is your vision? What is your goal? And given that, what choices really align with that? We are the sum total as human beings of all of the choices that we've made. Every way that we are is a choice. Everything that we do is a choice. And choosing not to choose is a choice. And now is the time to know more, to be fearless. And the only way that we get to know more is to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's risking outside of our comfort zones. It's taking new ground. It's getting up when we'd rather not. And the way to become unstoppable, I ask people all the time, how do you become unstoppable? And people say, don't stop. That's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. The bigger the project, the bigger the goal, the bigger the vision, the higher the probability that there's going to be some stops, some bumps, some missteps along the way. The way that we become unstoppable is to choose to keep getting up, to choose to keep getting up. You know, everybody, and I'm not a sports fan, and I always try to use this example, but for years and years, everyone was chasing after Hank Aaron's 700 plus home runs. And that's what everybody was looking at. We got to beat the 700 plus home runs, 700 plus home runs. But nobody ever focused on how many strikeouts. He had over 1,500 plus strikeouts to get that 700 plus home runs. So what do you think he was choosing to focus on every time he went to bat? He was choosing to focus on the next home run. So the question you want to ask yourself, what am I choosing to focus on? Am I focusing on the next home run, or am I focusing on the strike? When I look at the strike, how are we looking at it? I married into 4 foster sons, right? And they happened to play baseball. And so when they would go, I would go to their games, and when they would go up to bat, even when they would strike out, I would get up and go, yay! And they was like, Pops, please tell her don't do that. That is so embarrassing. Why is she screaming when we strike out? But I gave them a new interpretation of I said, but you went up to bat. Do you pick the bat up? You put it behind, and you went for the swing. Do you know how many people never would even get up to go to bat? So I decided, okay, I'm going to stop embarrassing them. I can't expect them to understand all this transformational stuff that I believe in, right? And so I was quiet at this game. When we get home, they go, what happened? You didn't yell for me when I was at bat, right? So what I know for sure, that I taught them the power of choice. Every way that we are is a choice. Everything that we do is a choice. Choosing not to choose is a choice. And we absolutely, at all times, 24/7, have the power to choose how we're going to relate to what has happened. Because the reality is, there are going to be those things that are outside of our power, that are outside of our domain. And your decision to choose how you're going to relate to those things will determine if you're fearless. And if you fear less, right? You hear the difference? If you fear less and fear less. How we get to fearing less is to do more outside of our comfort zones, and to keep being intentional about the choices we make, so that we're empowered regardless of when life is lifing and the world is whirling and the people are peopling. You get to choose who you're going to be in the matter. You get to choose how to choose, what to choose, when to choose. Never wait for anybody to give you that permission, right? Don't wait for other people to choose for you. Use your power and ability to respond. Yeah, we look at responsibility mostly from the paradigm of duty, obligation. That's not what I'm talking about. We all have the power and ability to respond, and use your power to choose how you will use your ability to respond. Will I speak up, or will I sit it out? Will I stand up, or will I sit it down? Will I choose to look at what's working or what's not working? Will I get up to bat again and decide I'm unstoppable, or will I allow myself to be stopped? All of our choices are up to us, and we are a sum total of all of the choices that we make. I thank you so much for this time this morning. Women of Impact. Do we have a couple minutes for questions, or we don't? Okay. Well, if you have questions for me, I'll be out back, and I look forward to seeing each of you. Thank you for the time this morning.